All right, welcome. Today, we're diving into a really mind-bending idea. It all starts with a question that sounds so simple, you've probably never even thought to ask it. But trust me, trying to answer it changes everything.
Okay, so why does A equal A? We just know it does, right? It's a fundamental rule of the universe. Something can't be true and false at the same time. This is the absolute bedrock of all science, all math, all of our thinking. But here's the kicker. You can't actually prove it. So if the very foundation of all reason is something we have to take on faith, where does that faith come from?
Well, it turns out that all of our knowledge, every complex theory, every scientific breakthrough, it's all built on just a handful of these simple, unprovable truths. And they have a name. Axioms.
Think of an axiom as like the source code for your mind. It's the basic operating system that lets you think it all. You don't prove the code, you use the code to prove everything else. Which, just pushes the question back one step further. Who or what wrote that code?
The text we're digging into today offers this really powerful, ancient answer. It says these rules of logic aren't just random, and we didn't invent them. They are a direct reflection of a divine reality, almost like the fingerprint of God on the human mind. And here's where the parallel gets really beautiful. Just think about it for a second. The divine is described as the inner reality. It sees everything, but is itself unseen. And what about logic? Well, it's the inner law of our own minds. It illuminates all our thoughts, but you can't really turn the light back on itself to see it. Logic is the light, not the thing being lit.
So in this view, the divine becomes the principle of all logic, the absolute, non-negotiable starting point. And in Hebrew, this idea is perfectly captured by the letter Aleph, the very first letter, the origin point of everything that comes after.
But okay, this divine logic isn't just some static starting point that just sits there. No, it's also the very process we use to get around. It's the path we walk to make sense of the world.
And we're not just talking about cold, hard calculation here. This logic is seen as flowing through every part of what it means to be human. Through our intellect, we're constantly searching for what's true. Through our will, our moral compass, we're striving for what's good. And through our imagination and creativity, we're reaching for what's beautiful.
And get this, there's a fantastic little clue hidden in the Hebrew language that ties this all together. The word tov doesn't just mean good. It can also mean true and beautiful all at once. So this suggests that when ancient traditions called God the good, they were pointing to something way bigger, the single, ultimate source of all truth, goodness, and beauty. It's all connected.
So you see, the divine isn't just the starting point. It's also the process, the very means by which we reason our way through life. And this is symbolized by the letter mem, which sits right in the middle of the Hebrew alphabet and represents the journey, the path itself.
All right, so we've got a beginning and we've got a path. But where is this journey of logic even going? Well, the text argues it's not just a random walk. Our reasoning is always traveling toward a specific destination, a final conclusion, a sense of certainty.
You know that feeling, right, when you've been wrestling with a problem and you finally solve it, and there's that sense of arrival, of certainty, that aha moment. That's the feeling of finding the truth at the end of the journey. And the text suggests that truth was already there, waiting for you from the very beginning.
This destination, this feeling of finality, of yes, I've got it, that is the purpose of all our reasoning. And it's represented by the very last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Tav, which acts as the end of the journey, the final seal of approval. So let's put this all together. The entire journey of our reason starts with a divine principle.
It moves along a divine process.
And it drives toward a divine purpose.
Principle, Aleph. Process, Mem. Purpose, Tav. You put those three letters together, A, M, T, and they form the Hebrew word emet, the word for truth. Just let that sink in. According to this worldview, truth isn't just some concept, it's a divine journey, a beginning, a middle, and an end, written into the very structure of our mind.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. That sounds like a pretty wild, out there idea. But here's the thing. It's not an isolated one. It's actually part of this incredibly powerful intellectual tradition that you can hear echoing through thousands of years of philosophy.
The ancient Greeks were wrestling with the same ideas. Plato himself, drawing on even older traditions, taught this exact same structure, that the divine is the principle, the middle, and the end of absolutely everything. Then you have the philosopher, Philo of Alexandria, who brilliantly merged Greek and Hebrew thought. He argued that the divine logos, which means both word and reason, is the bridge that connects God to the world, and that it impresses its seal, its structure, onto our very minds.
Let's fast forward over 1,500 years. The French philosopher Malebranche put forward this famous and pretty radical idea that our ability to even understand universal truths is because we are, in a very real sense, seeing all things in God. We're tapping into the divine mind to think.
And then in the 19th century, Jules Simon distilled it down into this beautifully simple, logical argument. He said, look, if truths like 2 + 2 = 4 are eternal and true everywhere, they must exist inside a mind that is also eternal and exist everywhere. Therefore, God must exist.
And really, it all boils down to this essential paradox, which the philosopher DuPont White captured perfectly. We experience these fundamental truths deep inside ourselves, yet it doesn't feel like we made them up. It feels like we discovered them. What would be true if not that which is within us without being from us?
And that leaves us with a massive question for our own time. This entire line of thinking argues that for truth to be real, to be objective, it needs a divine anchor. So in a world that has largely cut that anchor loose, what do we ground our truth in now? If A = A isn't grounded in the divine, is it grounded in anything at all?